It's amazing to me that Steve, his skill set and mine, other than, okay, madman, leader, you know, drawing people in, but his taste in design and user interface and even his intuition about people, he was just genius in a way you can't explain. He didn't look at code and write code, whereas, my thing is, hey, I'm an engineer, here's the code, let's make it faster and smaller. So actually that allowed us to get along because, what he was super good at, I was not good at. I envied those just incredible talents that he had. And in some ways, he's more singular. If you say to me, are there other people like you who are great at writing code and conceptualizing? Yeah, I can name a number of people, including many who worked with me. But I don't know somebody who I say, oh yeah, he's just like Steve Jobs.
Wow. Well, that's very humble of you as well. I mean, it's beautiful to hear. What were some of those final conversations like that you had with him that were potentially, I always felt like he was so philosophical and maybe more so in those moments?
Yeah, we did one public appearance, where we were being thoughtful about the friendship. Walt Mossberg had us on stage together, which was definitely a fun thing and surprised people because Steve was very harsh. He was always, he said we were the General Motors and he was like the Mercedes. But all in, it was all very fair. Well, we reflected that computers really hadn't improved education, and where both he and I had given speeches saying, of course, this will make education, 5 times better. And we were like, wow, we got that one wrong. Maybe next round we'll deliver on that promise. And, how unusual it was, and even a little bit lonely that, when you were so successful and then you're having doubts about, okay, are we making mistakes here? Both of us had kids by then. He was actually, of course, he not only did Apple, he did the Pixar stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And because that was a realm I'm not in, I, could sincerely tell him what a brilliant job he did. Now, partly picking people, but that's, kind of amazing. Now part of Disney, and both a sense of thankfulness, although, he was very sick and just hoping some new drug would come along, and tragically it didn't.
Yeah. Was there a memorable piece of advice or conversation where you said something to him or he said something to you that has stayed with you?
Well, the fact that, why were we both so competitive and pushing ahead? I think both of us, in his case, he's an orphan, so he has a more complicated childhood that maybe can explain his zeal. I don't have anything like that, even though Kent died, that's not why, well before that, I was somehow always, pushing as hard as I could be. And, I think both of us, being thankful for what we'd been able to work on. I mean, we got more of a front row seat and helped build this thing. Steve never got around to doing philanthropy. Now his widow, Lorene, is doing great philanthropy. So, that's, I'm sure he'd be proud of that. But he didn't get to that stage, and I was just getting into that stage. So I shared with him a little bit about, wow, a lot of children die, and we don't do much to stop that. And that kind of intrigued him, but then he never got to pursue it.
Yeah, you're reminding me of something I read in Bob Iger's book where he was talking about how there was a time when Spielberg, George Lucas, they'd all sit together and then they'd watch each other's movies and give them feedback. And they all felt very confident doing that because they knew their strengths and their uniqueness were so diverse. And so they didn't feel threatened that, oh, well, Steven's going to steal my idea or, George Lucas is going to steal my idea, because they felt so confident. And it sounds like even for yourself as competitors to talk, to have a relationship, does that still happen today? Do competitors talk? Do they pick up the phone to each other? Or was that very rare? Because it feels like, it feels definitely now so less.
I have a good friendship both with Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg. Elon stands by himself. Maybe that drives everybody else together. I don't know. Over time, I think Elon, as he gets older, maybe he'll mellow out a little bit, and